So let's kick off with actually right at the beginning. Before you even start, before you even get your book out and you want to advertise everywhere and chat on social media, what should you have in place first before you even start that? We should go to Anne first on that one, if you'd like to kick that one off.
What I would say, first and foremost, you need a basic website, especially if you're indie. If you're self-published, that's a must. If you're published with a traditional publisher, they tend to give you a page that you can work with. You need a mailing list, which you can drive off your website. So you need to start that even before you publish. Pick one or two social media platforms that you're comfortable on. I will tell you that the lesfic market gravitates to Facebook. But again, that's dependent upon the age of the market that you're looking at. It's you want to build a relationship with the people that will eventually want to buy your books. So social media is important, and establishing a website is important. Get out there, make friends. You don't have to spend a lot of time, but you do need those things in place.
I was thinking more about marketing strategy before you do anything else. This is something that I still haven't done, and I'm about to publish my 7th book, and I still haven't got a handle on this. Tammy, do you want to tell us a little bit about, ideally, before that first book comes out, what should you have thought about?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Anna's saying, and I would add to that, one of the things that I think that every single person needs to do even before that first book comes out is you need to understand who your audience is. You need to understand what your plan is and you have to think about who you see buying your book. And that's not always it's most of the time going to be our community, but you also have to think about who outside our community may be interested in what you have to say. So if your book focuses on something that is, I'm trying to think, Lynn Ames just recently was talking about what she's publishing, and she's writing the autobiography or a memoir. So I can't remember what it is, but it's baseball centered, right? So it's about Dot. And so she's going to focus on baseball kind of thing. Where can she focus who else is her audience? And I think that's what you have to think about. Who else is your audience outside of the small group you know is, and start targeting them. So what Anne's saying about looking at Twitter and Facebook and your webpage, that's all wonderful, but who on Twitter, who on Facebook, who are you going to target? It's easy to go out and target other writers, right? And that's kind of what I think a mistake that a lot of new authors make is they want to come together with other authors. And that's beautiful. You want to come together with other authors, but ultimately that's not your audience. Your audience is the reader. Who's your reader? So for me, that's a big piece, I think.
All righty. Casey.
Yes.
Getting to your readership. How do you go about doing that?
What they say, absolutely, but also you start with establishing some sort of brand, because you're going to want to keep that the whole time through. So you might as well start early, and then pick a group. Again, Facebook is kind of where our niche is as far as readers, at least currently. It is broadening. It is broadening, which is good. There's Twitter and some of the others now. But yeah, so make a brand and then find a group. Maybe focus on one or two and really start interacting with those people, like Tammy was saying. Start interacting with those readers and let them know what you have to offer, and get some feedback. I started posting my cover way before the book came out, asking people, what do you think? And they really get involved. They really get involved with you. So, and then keep that up as your brand.
There's a few questions actually relating to brand here, but and it's a bit of a slippery term if you're not particularly don't have a marketing background. Amanda, how would someone go about determining their brand? What is it? What is a brand? What do they really need to get a handle on?
Well, it's how you want to be interpreted and how you want people to feel when they think about your books and you as an author. You have to separate yourself as an author and yourself as a person. So if you're on social media and you're quite political, you are going to split your audience. So it might be an idea to not be political on certain author branded accounts. You need to think about trying to be whatever your concept of your books is, to as many people as possible, and to kind of be a bit bland in some ways. You don't want to be very opinionated or very argumentative. Well, you can be, but you won't sell many books. You have to try to stick to your brand and think what your brand is. So certain authors are really, really good at having conversations with their readers. Like Casey was just saying, Casey will have conversations with her readers and say, oh, I'm thinking of making this cover. What do you think of this? I'm going to write this. And the feedback is really, really important. And you see that sort of Casey has that connection with her readership as a whole. And that's part of Casey's brand, that she's talkative, she's open, she's, people come and talk to her. You don't have to be like that. If you're kind of shy, that doesn't mean that, you're not going to have an author brand. It's about putting your authentic but author self forward. And something I would say is the main place you do this is anywhere you write copy. So you write copy on social media, you write copy on your website and on email marketing. So think about every time you write a message, and this sort of plays into everything to do with marketing. Everything to do with marketing can be boiled down to one point, and that is plan, action, and evaluate. So plan what you want to achieve, then do that action, and then evaluate it at the end. So if you're talking about brand and you have a new book out, then you might want to email people about that. You need to plan, what am I going to say? What do I want to say? What do I want to achieve by this action? Then go ahead and do that action and then evaluate that it's worked. And in doing that, you may end up changing your brand as you go. Your brand is something that will change a little bit. It will adapt as you grow as an author.
Carolyn, coming off from that, what about you? How do you brand your novels? Because I don't think yours fit quite so easily into genres as maybe just plain romance or plain thriller. Do you also kind of quite an intriguing mix? How do you cope with that with your brand successfully?
I think, and one of the reasons that I started writing at all, this was something that I'd always wanted to do, but for me, it was filling a niche that sort of traditional, lesfic, for lack of a better sort of term, didn't have. I wanted to, I wrote the books that I wanted to read. I had a pathology forensic background, growing up with a Patricia Cornwell and the Kathy Reichs. And I could write those books off of my own sort of life experience. And so, I knew that I would fall into a niche sort of, but in general, it was like, what is it about what you do? For people that write traditional romance, of which, or contemporary romance, of which is probably the largest genre, right? It's got 3 Goldie categories just devoted just to itself. It's like, what do you do with your books that sets you apart from everybody else? When I say who writes all the best, if I say who writes Ice Queen romances, everybody knows the answer to that because she's branded, right? She has established her brand. Lee Winter, I'm talking about, in case you didn't know the answer to that, or at least that's who I was thinking of. Or the slow burn romances. We all know who that is because that is what she does well and has built on that. And so, I just was like, this is what I can do. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. But building my brand, so, it's a tagline. It's about my covers. It's about the humor that I incorporate, the dark humor that I incorporate in my books. At the risk of sounding vain, it's from how I dress when I'm in front of people to the jokes that I tell or how I present myself on Twitter, everything that everybody else has absolutely said. But from the beginning, the root of it was, what am I going to do in my books that will set me apart? And then I want to build on that. I want that as my, I want to sell that. And how do I sell that?